So can I just fire a load of questions at you?
Of course you can. Yeah, just let me get somewhere where the light's right. Here we are. Yeah, perfect.
Don't worry, I haven't put any makeup on, which I always forget.
I've just got breakfast face. I've had a nap. I've been to the supermarket. I'm literally in the middle of a deep clean in my house. I tell you what, it's all showbiz, this whole radio thing.
I know I'm such a radio girl. I always forget the makeup.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about your audience, how do you picture them? Who are they? What's your target audience?
So we're actually like a 50-50 split on Heart. A lot of people think that we're obviously female oriented, but actually looking at our audience split, it's actually nearly 50-50 in terms of male female. But we're trying to pitch it to that 25-44 kind of audience, so an older audience than like Capital, but a younger audience than someone like Smooth Radio or someone like Radio 2 or something like that.
Brilliant. And looking at your presenters, just in terms of like the factual stuff, how many links are you looking at in each hour for breakfast?
So in each hour we have about 7 or 8 links an hour, and those links can be anything from 2 to 3 minutes to shorter links, including like there's the hour openers which are a bit shorter, which is set up the hour like that comes straight out of the news. So that's more like 30 seconds. But into the ad breaks, we try and do shorter links because obviously we want to get into the adverts and get back to the music quicker. So we don't want a massive gap between doing a long link into a break, into adverts, and we always have traffic and travel off the back of the ad breaks as well. So that's obviously adds extra time. So we want to try and get those ad breaks quick so that we're not keeping people ages away from the music.
And who's deciding the length? Is it Joel and Lorna, or is it you, or?
We will decide on the content what we're doing between each other. So I get in really early and I decide on what content we should be doing for that day, and then the guys will come in and they'll say, "Yeah, I like this. I don't like that." In terms of the links, I'm always managing it in terms of the studio. So if I think the link we should be getting out of the link, I'll make a visual symbol to Joel that he knows as he's driving the desk to go get out of the link. And I always try and signal that because I always want us to get out on the out. I've always been taught, get out on the out, get out on the funny, and leave people wanting more. So whether it's that he fires in a song, or whether it's that he fires in an advert break, or whether he fires in a jingle, whatever it is, as soon as he sees my visual signal, he normally then will move on, which is obviously what I'm doing in terms of producing the studio.
And so for me, I'm from a Radio 4 background, so I'm like uber script girl. I'll have everything down to the last word scripted. How is it for you with your links?
In terms of competitions and things that we need to do that are client led, or things that are like big station promotions. So at the minute we're giving away £10,000. So there's a lot of key messages around those competitions that we have to stick to. So I do scripts if we're doing competitions, things for clients and station led promotions. But in terms of the links, what I do is I get in on a morning and I condense down the stories from the news. So I'll condense those down so we get rid of all the newspaper, like all the sayings that newspapers use. So it's not Adele, the hello hit maker. It's just Adele's got a new single out. She surprised people on Twitter. I put it in really human terms for the guys to really easily digest.
And so in terms of branding and idents, how strict? I mean, presumably Joel and Lorna are so experienced that it's almost natural. But if you were talking to a brand new presenter, what would you be saying about how often do you have to say that we're listening to Heart?
So off the back of the links, I think it's always back announcing the song. So Katy Perry, Raw, it's Heart Breakfast, introduce your name. It's always that thing that we've always been taught. It's kind of that handshake every time you're opening that mic, because there's new people tuning in all the time. There's people who we get who tweet us and they say that they're finding us new every single day. And we've been on the air nearly 3 years, our show. And people really need to get used to the names. Like, I don't think Joel and Lorna is necessarily easy names to get their heads around either. There's so many people who say Joe or Laura, so it's reinforcing that as well, because you need that in terms of, we want to get people to tick their radar diaries when they're listening, going, we listen to Heart Breakfast, Joel and Lorna, we want that recall. So you need to really clearly in your links, and if you're doing good stuff as well, I always say stamp the station name or stamp your name to it. If you do something that's really funny, just leave it just with Heart on the end or something. If there's a natural point where you can get a laugh at the end of the thing, you can just, before you go into an ad break, before you go into a song, just at the end of it, just go Heart Breakfast morning. People remember that they heard that on Heart then, you know what I mean? They didn't hear it on Key 103. It wasn't on Smooth Radio. You need to remind people that they're on Heart. And it sounds daft, they've got it on the radio in front of them that it's Heart, but you do need to keep reminding people.
And when you look, if Joel and Lorna got run over by a bus tomorrow, God forbid, and you were looking for new talent when you come in, What would you be looking for in a presenter?
I want someone who can tell me a story. So I want someone who can take something from the papers. That I'll see something at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll pick that story purposely to put on our sheet of stories that we could talk about for the show, because I can foresee like how Joel and Lorna could tackle that. So I want someone who can feed something into the story. So it's not just someone messed up at the Oscars and it was the wrong envelope. I want someone to be able to really elaborate on that story, really make it dramatic, feed in their own stories from that. Really think of an angle of how we could do something about that creatively. So I don't want to tackle topics and stuff that we cover on the show in one dimension, as I call it. I want it to be three-dimensional. I want it to be, can we use sound effects? Can we use different music beds around it? Can we tell the story in a different way? Can we bring it to life on social media? That's all what I want to do with every bit of content. So we're not throwing it away. We maximize every bit of content and every opportunity that we've got with it, because people are consuming the show in so many different ways now, whether it's on apps, whether it's catching up on Facebook, listen again, people listening live in the car. You want to be able to give people the appetite for the show in so many different platforms nowadays.
And apart from getting up super early, if you were to get run over by a bus, what would they need to do to replace you?
I think you've got to have a really, really strong work ethic, because I've got to get there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you've got to be really in the mindset of your presenters. So you've got to be really in the headspace of thinking like a presenter. Yeah, you're a producer, and everyone thinks, oh, you're the person who just always does all the stuff behind the scenes. No, you do the really important stuff. You're finding that content, and that's what I enjoy doing on a morning, why I get in there so early. You've got to find that content because you are providing that to your presenters, so they've got a platform and a starting board when they get in there on a morning. So our presenters get there 5:30, 5:30, 5:45. They're half an hour, 15 minutes before the show. Between that time, they want to have everything in their hand in terms of paperwork, prep, stories. You want to give them all the inspiration that they need for that show, and that gives them a real springboard in terms of what they need for the show that day. And we can develop ideas then when they arrive. But it's just having that foresight, I'd say, to kind of go spot a story and go, I can hear this on the radio at 8:10. I can hear listeners finding this really funny. I can hear Joel and Lorna doing this in their own style, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, and so how many stories will you have prepped by the time they get in?
Probably what I do is, as I said before, I rewrite the stories. So I don't just, it's not just a copy and paste job. So I actually rewrite them. Between 8 and 10 stories I'll do every single day for them in a condensed form. And I'll be able to send you one of our copies of one of our like prep sheets as well, so you can see exactly how it works. I'll show you like we've got a running order and then the stories. And then I'll do what I do every day as well is like a diary of what's going on for that day. So whether that's things going on in the Northwest, movie premieres that are going on in London, even celebrity birthdays. Like Joel and Lorna sometimes can do really nice stuff around that. So it's all that kind of stuff. Everything that I need for that day, I really want to provide them as they arrive. So they've got everything, and we can really then just hit the ground running as soon as they get in.
How prescriptive are you with your running order?
Very, very loose. Like the only things that really stay the same are if we're doing things for clients, or if there's anything in particular that we have to do. There's sometimes that London will get in touch with being part of Global, and obviously Heart. They'll get in touch and say, we need you to do this at 8:10. It has to be delivered at 8:10. There's only those times that we do that. And competitions in the show and things like that usually fall about the same time as well.
And last but not least, music. So, how is it with? Do you have policy on talking over the intros and outros? Obviously, not crashing vocals, but where do you where?
Yeah. Again, it is kind of, we do. I do say that Heart's policy would be always respect the music. At times Joel doesn't, which I can, he sometimes does, but normally it's, talk to the intros if you can. But if you do something really good, like I said before, don't always feel like you have to always talk to that intro. If you do something good and you've still got 10 seconds of an intro, always leave it on the funny, I always say. So if you're doing a funny link, you do the funny link and you get the laugh, leave it on the laugh, even if there's 5 seconds of the intro left. Don't feel like you have to fill or say something else just to try and be funny again. If you get what you think is the peak of your link, I always say get out at the peak. And also, yeah, songs that end, I would always say never talk over songs that end. Only talk over songs that fade.
Yeah, and are you expected to get a certain amount of tracks in an hour?
Yeah, so we got to play. We got to play between 8 and 9 songs an hour, and that's monitored as well. So our boss is always looking over link length as well. Like I said, we shouldn't be doing links really longer than 3 minutes. And it's always trying to think about the way those links are constructed in terms of you don't want to cram too much into those links. So you don't want to be going in 7 different directions in the one link. You know, you want to do something very basic. If you want to do something at the top, like today, like the weather was really bad, so the link would probably start back announcing the song. Manchester Airport's currently closed at the minute because they've got to clear the runways, into the main bulk of the content and then out and move through it. You don't want to do 7 different things before you get to the main of actually what you want to talk about. You want to keep it really clear, really succinct. I'm of the belief, keep people wanting more, because with our show we have people who are massive fans of the show. You want to keep them listening for longer.
Brilliant, lovely. And presumably the news is all separate, and that comes from Global, so you don't have any say over the news at all.
We don't have any say in the news content, but we have Sarah, our newsreader, who reads our news live. So the good thing about that is it's not pre-recorded or anything like that. So if there's anything that we want to react to with the news, she can be part of our show in terms of a character. So she's not just a newsreader that does 2 minutes. If there's anything that we want to throw to her, we can as well, which is really nice. That it's not just, she's not on a button and we can't talk to her and it's very much the news is separate to programming. No, we do get told not to talk into the news if there's any serious top stories and things like that. But other than that, sometimes it's quite funny to actually play on that newsreader character who is quite serious. It's sometimes quite good in terms of to show a different side to her as well, that she is, a human being as well. It gives us a different edge to her when she can do something a bit more lighthearted sometimes as well.
You double update you because Lorna does your travel and Joel does your weather, so.
So Lorna does the travel, yeah. Joel will do the weather in terms of he's got that on his sheet and that's his kind of thing. So Lorna will normally do travel straight out of the back. Joel will do the weather is normally kind of how we do it, and we do travel every 20 minutes on the show as well.
Brilliant, lovely. Is there anything else I've missed that you think they should know?
Not really, no. Just in terms of just how important the social media is, like I touched on earlier, in terms of it's not just the radio show anymore. I call it the 24-hour breakfast show. That your breakfast show has to exist 24 hours a day, not 4 hours a day when it's on the air. So you should be doing videos and content for your website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You should be doing all this content that exists away from 6 until 10 as well. You want to drive people to that show and you want people to be spreading the word for that show. Social media is so brilliant nowadays. It's free marketing for your show. People are going out there and sharing the content that we're creating off their own back because they like what we do. And that then will appear in their friends' timelines, who might share it to friends of friends. And it's all trying to encourage people to listen to the radio.
Brilliant, lovely. Well, thank you ever so much, and I can't wait to meet you.
No worries. I'm really looking forward to it next week. Really looking forward to meeting everyone. I love doing this kind of stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for asking me.
Brill. Cheers, Jordan. Speak soon.
All right, Lisa. Speak to you soon. Yeah, I'll speak to you definitely before next week. I'm sure. I'll drop you a line or whatever.
Lovely. Take care.
Perfect. All right, lovely. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.